Hello, welcome again to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White, the founder of the Bobby White Foundation, along with...
I'm your co-host, Bonnie Snyder.
And we have a special guest with us today, Jenn Licata.
Yep, Licata, that's right.
Oh, sweet. She's with Canine Partners for Patriots. Mm-hmm. So we're going to speak with her in just a moment. But of course we want to always... We don't get to roll credits at the end of our show, so
yeah,
we want to always thank our producer, John and WeBeam TV, and Rob and Dylan and Cage, because without them we wouldn't be able to get our mics on and get the cameras rolling and do all that fun stuff.
They know how to make us look good.
And also one of our newer sponsors, the Hilton Garden Inn out at the Suncoast in 54. We want to thank them also. So we have a lot of events going on, and usually we'll talk about the events at the beginning of the show, but I think what we're going to do is, because one of the big events is our guest, so we'll talk about them and fill in the rest of them, because there's still a ton of stuff going on.
Yeah, along with that, the other ways to, we were talking about sponsors. The other way
right.
to sponsor is, through our kindness page. Tammy, let me do this the other day, and I was like, I actually did it.
You did really good.
really good. I'm so used to Tammy doing this piece. But your kindness page, where there's the different levels that are preset, or you can go in and put in an amount that you're comfortable with. I mean, even if it's $1, every $1.50 helps. With production costs and what it costs for us to bring the show to you. And my God, we're on episode 43.
43.
It's like we've done this for 43 weeks, guys. And again, with we couldn't do this without not only John, and the crew here, but with your support as well. We also have our T-shirts, and you can purchase those through the foundation. We have the 2 designs, and they're both available in the men's and the women's style. The crew neck is the men's. V-neck is the more form-fitting for us ladies who got to hit them curves just right. But, again, whether it's the T-shirts, whether it's our kindness page, or
direct donations.
I was like, you just want to put a check in the mail?
Yeah, you can do that.
That works too, but every little bit helps.
And actually, I do want to do one little plug. At a local organization that actually I was president of for 4 years, Business and Professional Women Calusa, they're actually closing our local club, and so they had monies that they had to disperse, and they chose 5 or 6 local nonprofits, and our foundation was the recipient of a really nice check last night. So that was it's really nice to see other organizations supporting each other. So, but yeah, a check in the mail would be really sweet.
We also just recently had our painting with a purpose.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that was just, I joke when I'm doing my regular work, and I'm drawing things on the board. I always tell people I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination.
That's what almost every woman said that was there.
I am not an artist. But we did this painting for a purpose where, we went into painting with a twist in Trinity. And Ivy, the artist who was helping us, guiding us through this process, I was like, oh, she was so funny. Like, I love the different personalities that she adopted, while we were doing that. But it was wine, pizza, and painting. Like that's a combo.
Great combo. And the other organizations that we're members of, we were still talking about it this morning. So, and we are planning on doing another one in the springtime, so we'll keep people a heads up for that one also.
But it was
fun.
It was a lot of fun. You've heard us talk about the neon dragonfly, which was the picture that we chose to paint, that dragonfly having a lot of symbolism with loss and whatnot. It's like funny. I look at mine and I was like, this is an abstract butterfly. I keep saying butterfly, dragonfly. Maybe because mine looks more like a butterfly, dragonfly.
It looks like a dragonfly.
But again, it was a lot of fun, and I think I remember hearing you say surprised that you were the foundation was handed the check that night.
Yeah,
like, it was all over. It's like, oh, I hope you guys had fun, and oh, by the way, here's your check.
I almost started crying. It was all I could do to keep a straight face.
Yes.
During that, so that was it was, and we want to thank them too, because they really worked with us a lot for that event.
And then Art for Hope, and I'm gonna turn Art to Hope over to you.
Art for Hope is a continuation, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the show, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and I want to get to our guest here.
Absolutely.
Again, we have Jenn here, and she is actually, this is a pretty good title, long title for your job position. Strategic Partnerships Manager for Canine Partners for Patriots.
That is right.
So welcome, Jenn.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, we found actually Kim Romanowski from 9 Round.
Yes.
She's the one who forwarded me Jess's email, and she's like, I think, this is, and I was like, oh yeah, we got to get him on the show. So,
Absolutely.
voila.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. We really appreciate it. And just passing along our information, the more that we can share with members in the community about what we're doing, the better, because at the end of the day, it can be a life saved.
What is, tell us how the organization was founded and why, and what is it that you guys actually do in the community?
Absolutely. So we're going to take a little trip back in history, but we were founded back about 8 years ago now. So we were founded by certified master dog trainer Mary Peters. She has over 30 years of canine training experience, everything from police dogs, law enforcement, search and rescue, you name it in the canine world, she's done it. And she's incredible at that. She is actually a canine behavioralist, which is a very unique thing too. So her understanding of dogs far surpasses the average person, to say the least. But she had her own for-profit dog training business, and she kept seeing time and time again veterans were being referred to her. And a lot of times someone told the veteran somewhere along the way, get a dog, it's going to help. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong, but we just needed to build upon that a little bit. So she was constantly getting veterans referred to her class, and she noticed a similar pattern. They would often be very withdrawn. They would stay towards the back of class. They might come 1 week and then not come for a number of weeks, and then come again and then not come for a number of weeks again. And as she started to engage with these veterans, she all saw a common theme throughout, and that was that these veterans are struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injuries, and/or military sexual trauma. And it was at that point in time she really realized how important it was to have a program specifically tailored for veterans or active duty members. And she has, just with her knowledge of canines, she actually closed her for-profit dog training business and founded Canine Partners for Patriots. So that was about 8 years ago now. We've had actually our 300th veteran graduate this past week, which was a huge milestone for us. But a little bit about the program itself. We're a little bit unique when it comes to service dog training. We actually train the veteran to train their service dog, which is a little bit of a different approach. Oftentimes with service dog organizations, the dog is trained by a dog trainer over the course of 6 months, and then the recipient of the service dog ends up coming in, getting a crash course of everything it just took the dog 6 months to learn. And Mary really began to see, okay, well, it would make a lot more sense if we actually involved the veterans in the training from the beginning. And by doing so, the dog and the veteran actually form a very unique bond because they're starting at level 1 and going all the way through the program together. Because of this, they have a much stronger bond. We say it's their battle buddy, and that really is an accurate representation of this dog. But these dogs are fully certified service dogs, specifically trained to mitigate their veterans' disabilities. And the disabilities we're focused on are post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, and military sexual trauma. Service dogs are normally very costly. It's not unusual for service dogs to cost upwards of $20,000 to $30,000, even more. Everything we do is done at no cost. The veteran doesn't pay a dime, ever. We cover all the cost. We have supporters who cover the cost of training the dogs, so that a veteran's excuse for not getting the help that they need is not a financial one. We will never ask them for a dime, ever. The other really cool part about the program is we actually work with surrounding shelters and rescues to pair shelter dogs with the veteran to go through the program together. So we're not breeding. The big thing with that is a couple different things, but number one, we're saving 2 lives. We're saving a veteran's life, and we're also saving a shelter dog's life, but also the cost perspective in that as well. Breeding is incredibly expensive. By rescuing and utilizing resources that we do have in the community, and these rescue dogs, they're amazing dogs. Just for whatever reason, life has happened and they've ended up in the shelter, but that does not mean that they're not capable of being incredible service dogs. One of the big questions we get asked all the time is, what's the best breed of service dog? And we say rescue is our favorite breed, because a lot of times the best service dogs that you see are not necessarily ones that you can be like, oh yeah, that's absolutely, a lab, or yeah, it's a lab mixed with a few other things. That doesn't matter, because its personality is spot on, and what we really care about is the nose on the dog. So we look for those dogs who can positively sense adrenaline. That way it can specifically help with the veterans who have the PTSD, who have the traumatic brain injury. They're able to alert to that rising of adrenaline and alert their handler to the fact of, hey, hold on, we need to check ourselves right now. Something's not okay. We need to fix the situation. And, the dog's able to know before the veteran even knows. So that's just, a crucial part of our evaluation program. We pass about 1 in 25 dogs that we evaluate. So we set the bar and the standard very high when it comes to the behavior that's considered acceptable, and the qualities and characteristics that we are specifically looking for. So that's kind of the program in a nutshell. It's so rewarding to be able to see lives change and lives saved every day. I will forever come back to this story. We did a video series of testimonies for one of our foundations back about a year ago, and we had about half a dozen veterans who were willing to share their story. And honest to goodness, I sat there and cried the whole entire time, because just hearing time and time again, I wouldn't be here. I would be another statistic if it wasn't for the program. It doesn't get old. It doesn't get old. And that's what it's about. It's about saving a life. It's about saving a veteran, an active duty member. It's about keeping a family together, about saving a brother, a sister, a father, a mother. And it was funny because we have a handful of veterans who go out and do speaking engagements with us and stuff like that. And one of my veterans I was talking to this week, and I was like, hey, I got a couple dates, upcoming. He's like, I can't, I'm traveling. I'm like, I want to be annoyed, but that's what we want. He found his life again. He's traveling. He's serving on the executive level of his community organization. He's traveling all over the state. And that's what we want to see, is those veterans getting their life back. So it's amazing, to say the least.
That is amazing.
We joke and say we cry a lot at work.
Well, we have our veteran here, and I was married to a Vietnam veteran years ago, and there was nothing like that for us back then.
No, not at all.
And it would have been amazing, for him to have something
Absolutely.
like that.
I'm married to a veteran as well, and I don't think we do enough for our veterans. Thankfully, we're making progress in the right direction, which is amazing, especially when it comes to the mental health. The mental health of our veterans is something that we need to talk about and not be afraid to speak out about.
Exactly.
And I applaud you all for what you're doing regarding mental health, because it takes all of us coming together as one voice to really amplify the importance of mental health. I think especially coming off of 2020, I'm sure you all have seen, but 2020 did a number on our veterans. If our sole mission and purpose is to bring our veterans out of isolation, and 2020 had the exact opposite impact, and that's what we don't want. and just bringing hope and light and, a life back to these veterans and that sense of purpose again. It's so crucially important.
I think that's amazing what you guys are doing. And we've often said on the show with other guests that we've had, this issue is so big that
huge.
it takes all of us. It takes
Yes.
all of our organizations because there's not a one of us that can tackle this on our own.
No, the
It's gonna
problem
take
is
all of
far
us.
greater than one of us, and that's why it's so important that we come together as a community and really, we're being a voice for those who may not have a voice. And that's what's important. And, shining light on the issues that are at hand so that one day, no one has to wonder where to get the help that they need. We can decrease that suicide number. We're losing 22 veterans and active duty service members every single day. Mm-hmm. And that just breaks my heart because these are men and women who have sacrificed so much for our country, but yet they don't feel that they're getting the help that they need to be able to combat this, that oftentimes they face once they come back to the civilian life and everything. And, we got to make a dent in that number. We got to get that number down. I love going out and speaking with the community because if one more person gets to hear about our organization, it can be a life saved. And that's what it's all about.
I think one of the biggest, issues, as Tammy pointed out, and you and I, shared a little bit, before we came on camera, that as a veteran myself, looking at the statistics, as it affects vets, and I'm like, as you're talking, PTSD, MST, and TBI, and I'm like, I have the trifecta, and but for me, it's like the PTSD and the MST, because that was during active duty, the TBI, that was I was retired, then that was a motorcycle crash, but I think what I find, even as a veteran myself, and I'm going to pose this as a question to you, like, how does a veteran go about finding you? Because oftentimes, in my work, and again, we shared, I am a mental health professional, and there are times, that I hear, like with the organization that I work for, well, you're a vet, where are the resources? Yeah. And sometimes, especially when it comes to mental health, I take pause and I'm like, wait a minute, let me think about this for a moment.
Where are they?
Because, excuse me, going through my own, journey and struggles through, things that I experienced, when I was in, and those residuals, and then, of course, losing my grandson, losing my son, other people. It's like, well, we know the crisis line exists, and but when it comes to mental health services, part of the challenge is there aren't enough mental health professionals to deal with the number of veterans that need that help.
It's so true, yeah.
And, what I found, again, my own journey, I'm comfortable sharing this, is you had to be in a program. It's like, oh, we're going to put you into this treatment modality, and, well, that guarantees you for the next, 10 weeks, 8 weeks, 18 weeks, you're going to see somebody, but then what happens afterwards?
Yeah, and that's often a lot of times, it's like, okay, you have a 6-week program, but then what? A lot of what we're focused on, and, this falls under my strategic partnerships, but it's outreach. We've really stepped up our game as far as outreach, specifically following COVID, because we want to be able to meet our veterans where they're at. And that is so crucially important. That's why we do a lot more work down in South Tampa, being able to meet those veterans exactly where they're at. Because you're not necessarily, they may not always come into a mental health center. You got to find the veterans where they're at and let them know. A lot of it is just educating about the program. That's why we're so thankful for opportunities like this where we get to share about the program, because it may not necessarily be a direct reflection or a direct service that you could benefit from, but who's to say your neighbor's nephew didn't come back from serving 5 tours and that this is something that they would very much need. It's that word of mouth. That word of mouth is so powerful when it comes to referrals, especially, regarding a program such as this, and the number of veterans we've actually gotten into our program as a direct referral from another veteran because they were like, oh, where did you get your dog? It's like, oh, Canine Partners of Patriots. You got to check them out. They're an amazing organization. But it's that positive word of mouth that really helps us to be able to further that reach and being able to, once again, just meet our veterans exactly where they're at.
So can you walk, the audience through the process where, okay, so I'm a vet.
Yep.
And somewhere in the grand scheme, in the midst of a conversation, say Tammy and I are in a conversation, and, I was like, I'm going through some stuff, and I think I want a dog. Yeah. And Tammy looks at me and says,
guess what? I got the perfect solution.
Yeah, and exactly.
Exactly,
and it's so Miss Veteran comes to Jenn and says, hey, what you got for me?
Absolutely.
Walk us through that process.
So we've really streamlined it because we want it to be as easy and non-tedious as possible. So our application is actually completely on our website. So caninepartnersforpatriots.com, and you'll see Veterans Start Here. And you're going to click on there, and it'll walk you through just kind of some of the basic questions that people have about the organization and everything. And then there will be an option for you to go ahead and start the application. It's a relatively short application. It's not very long. We do have 3 requirements for the program. So you need either service-connected or service-related post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis, traumatic brain injury diagnosis, or military sexual trauma diagnosis. It does not have to be from the VA. It can be from a private doctor, which is a really big thing because a lot of times when veterans do come to us, they're in the process of trying to get the VA to acknowledge it as service-related or service-connected, and we are very understanding of the fact that that can take months. If not years sometime, and more frequently, more so a matter of years. And we don't want that to hinder the veterans who have a service-connected or service-related that's been acknowledged by a private doctor from getting the help that they need. We want them to start getting the help as soon as possible. So we have that requirement. We do require an honorable discharge. And then a clean background check as well. We are dealing with veterans who have experienced military sexual trauma. It's of utmost importance to us that we keep a safe environment at all times. All of our staff goes through background checks, all of our volunteers, all of our veterans, because we have to keep that safe environment of healing. Specifically for our veterans. We have a sign over one of the doors that Mary, our founder, had made that's just a beautiful sign, and it says, "Through these doors lies hope and healing." And we really ensure that all we're doing lives up to that through these doors is hope and healing. Once the veteran submits their application online, there's a few pieces of paperwork like their DD-214 that they'll need to submit, their diagnosis paperwork, and then our veteran liaison, who's actually gone through the program himself, actually will contact the veteran and bring them in for an interview. So at that stage, it's kind of a mutual expectation of here's what to expect of the program, here's what we expect of you, here's what you can expect of us. We discover if they need a dog. So we kind of go through, okay, do you need a dog? What kind of requirements do you need in a dog? Do you need a larger dog for mobility purposes? A lot of our veterans who do have traumatic brain injury need that larger dog for mobility purposes, or maybe a smaller dog is more suitable if they don't have that need. So after they've met with the canine acquisition team and assessing those needs and everything, they actually come in for a 3-week orientation period. So it allows them to become familiar with the organization. It also shows their sincere interest and commitment to the program. Because it is a 6-month program, it is a hefty commitment. It is a lot of time. Our veterans put in over 365 hours of training into their dog by the end of the 6 months because they do 2 hours of training minimum every single day, and then they come to class as well, which is on a weekly basis. So once they come in, they go through their orientation period. Once their orientation period is met, or we at that point will then pair them with a dog. Sometimes they've already met the dog prior. Sometimes it might be a newer dog that comes in. It just depends on the veteran's assessment and what exactly they're looking for. But we really allow the dog to pick the veteran. And kind of like I was mentioning earlier about the heightened adrenaline, we look for those dogs who can sense that heightened adrenaline. We very much, it's a very surreal thing, and it sounds kind of crazy just talking about on the face, but to actually see it happen, oftentimes what we look for is the dog to pick out the veterans in the group, and then most of the time they'll go back and pick one. most of the time. And it's that special connection that forms that is so really tear-jerking, is to see that connection. So once they get the dog and everything, normally our classes start up with every month and a half or so, we'll have a new class starting up. It's on a rolling calendar, so that kind of thing. But then once they go through the program, and in 6 months, they have their fully certified service dog specifically to mitigate their disability. We have a common saying around the office of, once you're here, you're family for life. You can't get rid of us now. But we really truly believe that. We host aftercare events for our veterans, so they're done on a quarterly basis. And it's a time that we can invite our veterans who have already graduated, who are maybe just enrolling in the program and have been accepted, and who are currently in class, to all come together just to be able to get to interact with other veterans. It's a great time for them to be able to meet others in their community in a safe environment. Probably one of the hardest things about COVID is that we haven't been able to do that. So we're actually going to be having our first aftercare event here for Christmas. It's going to be outdoors at one of our community partners retreats, and we are so excited because the number of phone calls we got throughout COVID, veterans just saying, "When can I come home?" And, and that's what it is for a lot of our veterans. It's home. It's that community. It's that open arm, that endless support. Oftentimes, you would walk into the facility we have with our scenario training rooms, a cafe. And you would often walk by and there'd be a handful of veterans over there with their newspaper and coffee and their dogs. Not because they were there for training or anything, just because it's a safe place for them to get out and about, and it's that community for them. We're very, very excited. We actually received state funding this past year to be able to build our own permanent training facility.
Oh, sweet.
And we're putting blood, sweat, and tears into this training facility because it allows us to be able to continue to serve veterans for generations and generations and generations to come. And I'm so excited for this. This is really a new chapter in the organization, and us being able to continue to serve veterans for years and years and years and years. And that's what we aspire. Long after we're gone, veterans are still being served. And I believe a lot of this we have to thank Mary Peter, our founder, who really stepped out in faith and really saw a need and stepped forward to fulfill that need. This organization wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her faithful step. So we're very excited. A lot of incredible things, but like I mentioned before, at the end of the day, it's about lives being saved and preventing suicide. So.
What area? How big of an area do you guys serve?
Oh goodness, whole state of Florida. So we have veterans coming from, I think, 37 or 38 different counties now across the state. We have about probably 4 or 5 veterans actually coming from out of state. So one of the very interesting parts about our program is, like I'd mentioned before, the majority of our dogs come from shelters and rescues, but we will actually allow a veteran to bring their own dog to the program. So say, for instance, the scenario we were talking about before with, someone told the veteran to get a dog at some point in time, it'll help them a lot. If they have their own dog and they think the dog has the right temperament and behavior to be able to make for a successful service dog, to us, why reinvent the wheel? Why not go ahead and build upon that? So we will actually allow a veteran to bring their their personal dog, if they think it has the right qualities and characteristics, go through all of our temperament testing to ensure that they do have the right behavioral that we're looking for, and actually use their own dog to be their service dog. We are one of the only, if not the only, in the country that is an accredited service dog organization that will actually allow a veteran to bring their own dog to the program. So we have veterans coming from, I think, about probably 4 or 5 different states now, and all across the state of Florida, everything from the Panhandle down to Miami, over to the other coast, and everything and anything in between. But the bulk of our veterans definitely come from the greater Tampa Bay area. But the greater Tampa Bay area as a whole has a tremendous amount of veterans, especially in a densely populated area with our Air Force Base MacDill and everything. And a lot of veterans end up residing here. And Florida, I believe, is the 3rd largest state as far as a veteran population across the country. So we definitely have more and more veterans, even here on a local level, that we're ready to serve. So
when you say, I hear you say, the something you said a minute ago, and I'm looking at it just like, wait a minute, how does that work? Where it was during the orientation phase where you said the dog will pick out the veteran.
Yes.
And I'm like,
So
how does that work?
it's very, and like I said, it literally sounds crazy on its face. But
Not if you've had dogs your whole
that
entire
is
life.
true. That is true.
I mean, and I agree with you, Tammy, to that point, because, I find that dogs know people. Like, I don't own dogs. I mean, and it's not that I've never owned a dog. I have. It's just my schedule just does not allow it to be fair. But at the same time, when I think about my neighbors, like two neighbors, they both have dogs if I'm outside. The one dog, Stella, she has to pick up a leaf. And she she instinctively knows when I'm either sitting in my car, she'll pick up a leaf and she has to bring it to me, and then she cries until I pet her. And, that kind of sparked me when I'm hearing you say the dog picks the person, because, it's like, well, how does that work?
So think of it kind of simple. Okay, like when you're out and about and you meet someone and you kind of have like an instant connection. Kind of think of that, but with dogs. And, we look for that veteran and that dog to have kind of that unique spark or that unique bond. And it's, like I said, it sounds kind of crazy on its face, but to actually see it happen is a lot of times that dog ends up just kind of picking someone, and they just have kind of a very unique interest in that one person, and it's tear-wrenching to watch. We actually had this. This was about a year and a half ago, I think. We actually had one of the local news stations that was coming out to do a story on us and everything, and they actually caught on camera the whole dog matching interaction. That was not planned. That kind of happened organically, which was amazing to be able to see. But to see that dog go around and, it noted the veterans that were sitting down, and then it went back and it just happened to pick one, and it just kind of came back and he sat at his feet, and he just kind of put his head in his lap. And it was, oh my gosh, there was not a dry eye in the office. It was.
Oh, I could imagine.
But to see that, and like I said, it sounds a little bit crazy, but dogs tend to pick their people more times than not. Service dogs aside, oftentimes that's the case. You hear people going to shelters, and it's like, I wasn't going to look at this dog, and this dog literally came and picked me. And it's like, yep, he probably did. He sensed something special, and just that instant connection, that instant bond form. And there's something very special too on the side of the veteran of the dog picking them. It's a special feeling at that, but it's. We have a lot of dogs that we evaluate, but we ensure that we set the standard and the bar very high when it comes to the quality of service dogs that we're putting out there in the community. If you see a Canine Partners for Patriots service dog, that dog is going to be top notch, best of the best training, the best of the best behavior, and know that so much love went into that, into the training, and into making that veteran's life better. So
the dog. Again, I guess, to re-ask the question, the dog goes through training before it's matched?
Nope, they go through it together.
So, I guess what I'm understanding then is that you go to the shelter, you do a vetting, per se, of the dog.
Yep.
Dog comes back to
our facility.
To your facility. And the training doesn't start until they're matched with the vet.
Exactly.
Oh, that's okay.
It's very unique, very, very unique. So we actually have a lot of different volunteers who work with our canine acquisition team. They're out and about in the shelters constantly because they know what we're looking for. And we're getting to the point now where the shelters know what we're looking for. So they're giving us a call. Hey, I got this dog coming in. I haven't seen it yet, but from what I've heard, this could be a really good dog for you all, which is awesome.
Cool.
We have shelters who are being our advocate for us. So we go and we'll do a quick assessment at the shelter. As long as nothing stands out terribly wrong, we'll go ahead and bring the dog back to the facility, and then we'll do the full assessment at that point. And once the dog actually goes through the full assessment, we don't have kenneling on the premises. Kennels are incredibly expensive to build and maintain, so the dogs actually go into a foster home environment to allow them the 2 weeks to decompress from the shelters.
That's cool.
Because we don't want the dogs going through the decompression directly when they coming out of the shelter and then going directly into a veteran's home. We want them to go through that decompression first. And then once the dog has met their 2 weeks and the veterans met their 3 weeks, then they're matched at that point. And then they go through training together as a team. So we call them our canine teams, because that's what they are. They're a team.
That's super cool.
You know, to me, it was a, you know, you did a what is the term, Throwback Thursday, is it? Is it?
Yeah.
I see the kids all the time. I was like, this is a Throwback Thursday. And I was like, well, is there any other Throwback days? Like, why is it always on Thursday? So a Throwback Tuesday, since, you know.
Yeah.
We'll go with Throwback
Okay,
Tuesday.
guys, when you see this episode, it will be Saturday or Sunday. We tape on the Tuesday, so it's Tuesday for us right now. But a throwback, when I heard you say the word battle buddy, you know, and, you know, Chris, you know, we obviously had focus on you, you know, as you were explaining this, but I was like, she just said battle buddy. And I was like, she is really speaking, you know, and I think for me, you know, it's like that heartwarming feeling just listening because, you know, she said battle buddy. And I remember, you know, when I was, you know, when we're in, you know, we were taught your battle buddy is the most important person to you because that's the person who, you know, when you're thinking about when you are on the battlefield, when live rounds are coming at you, that person that just might save your life is your battle buddy.
Yeah.
You know, so again, I'm like.
Take that same principle and apply it to the canine team.
I'm like, yeah, he's definitely speaking. I mean, walking the walk and talking the talk. I mean, this veteran is impressed.
Like I said, it's about meeting our veterans where they're at. They understand the terminology, battle buddy. They understand that that's their, you know, the number of stories we have heard that my dog saved my life. I attempted suicide, or I attempted to harm myself, and my dog stepped in and intervened. That's what it means to be a battle buddy. And, you know, it's one of those things of, like I said before, and I know this is a common thing we've reiterated, but it's about saving a life. And, you know, our service dogs are meant to be a tool to be able to reintegrate back and to be able to be that tool to use. Unfortunately, dogs don't live as long as people. I wish they did. I think our world would be a better place, that's for sure. But it's about giving our veterans that tool to be able to succeed, to be able to get back on track, to be able to reintegrate back into society. And that's what it's all about.
So, and to that question, I mean, not to be a Debbie Downer, you know, or anything like that, you know, but to the point of, you know, dogs or people sometimes often outlive their pet.
Yeah.
So what happens? Oh, first of all, I guess I would ask, have you ever had it happen? And then if so, or if not, what would be the process if, okay, Bonni has, you know, a service dog from your organization and, you know, my dog, you know, passes away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my doggy's gone.
Yeah.
Can I be rematched?
Absolutely. So we've had this happen a number of times. Again, I wish dogs lived as long as people. But we did have this happen recently. And we got that veteran back into the program as soon as humanly possible. You know, it took us, you know, we had to find a dog. And we're part of a national association. We're actually founding members. It's the Association of Service Dog Providers for Military Veterans, or a national association of like-minded organizations who do not charge veterans for service dogs. You know, we really utilized our relationship there, and we did not have a dog at the time, but we called on our friends and we're like, we need help yesterday. We need a dog that is ready to go. And guess what? We got it. Because it came down to saving a veteran, and that's what's so important. And we've had it happen a number of times. Unfortunately, the dog has passed. If the veteran needs another dog, they will get right back in the program, and we will provide them with another dog. No questions asked. Because we say, once you're family, and we live that out in all that we do.
Well, how does the process work, you know, on the other side of the spectrum where, you know, again, if I use, you know, Bonni as an example, Bonni walks into your organization and it's like, you know, hey, I want to be matched. But it turns out that, for lack of a better way to put it, I'm not a good fit for the program, or the program is not necessarily a good fit for me, or there's a characteristic, you know, let's just say if I say, okay, I have these 3 diagnoses, you know, these 3, um, however, this is not a fit. What does that process look like?
So it depends on why the program may not be a good fit. If it's maybe not a good fit, we have instances where, because the veteran does have to be physically able to train the dog, we have instances where some of our veterans are not physically able to train the dog because of their disability. That's where our association really comes in hand, because we do have different association members who that hold up to the same standards that we do, but maybe do their training a little bit differently. Maybe it's more trainers training the dog than veterans. So if it's something like that, we'll refer them to one of our association partners who maybe can better serve them. We have instances where we have veterans call who may not be able to relocate down here for 6 months. That's where that association really comes into play, is we can find an organization that we know are adhering to the same standards as us, wherever that veteran might be. Now, if it might be the instance of maybe the veteran doesn't qualify, so maybe they have something on their record, we do give them the resources to be able to, we don't ever want it to be a no. We're going to give the veteran those resources that they need in order to, maybe it's go through Veterans Court, whatever it might be. Or maybe a service dog isn't really the right avenue for them. We have a licensed clinical social worker who's on staff with us, and he's very familiar with all the different avenues of help for our veterans. So it will never be a no. It will be okay, well, let's find what you need and be able to help that veteran to that next step, whether it's with us or whether it's with another organization, whether it's service dog related or elsewise.
So rather it being the hard no, it's more of a not us.
Yeah.
Not the hard no.
Exactly.
And I think that is what I feel is often a challenge, not only, for veterans, but for anybody, seeking some kind of, mental health, service, is that the resources are not always there, or if the resources there, people are not aware that the resource is available. Now, I know that your organization is, it's all about veterans. And again, I could be biased, when it relates to veterans. Is there for lack of a better way to call it, like a sister kind of organization for non-veterans?
So we do not. We are focused specifically on veterans and active duty. We do allow active duty in the program, which is also a unique thing. So as long as they're able to commit to the program, even if they are not a veteran, but they are active duty and they are still in, we will still allow them to go through the program and everything. We don't necessarily have a sister organization for, a non-veteran. It's very hard because we want to be able to help everyone. But we also want to be superior at what we're doing. So that's why we've really put all of our time, energy, and resources into veterans and active duty specifically, and created a program tailored for them. But I know there are a few other members here in the community, though, that work in other areas. I mean, service dogs change lives, whether it's veterans or children. Service dogs are a powerful, powerful tool when it comes to mental health. And I think that's something we've actually done our own empirical data on, because there's not enough data on the benefits of an alternative treatment specifically regarding service dogs. So we actually personally have 7 years of data that we have had collected and assessed by University of Central Florida, specifically on the benefits of service dogs as an alternative treatment for, in our circumstance, veterans. But to answer your question, we don't have a sister organization. This is our sole focus.
So I guess a follow-up question to that is, when I'm thinking about, non-veterans, what involvement, if any, does the veteran's family play? Because when I think of, I was a single parent through the military, and sometimes I hear something said to my children, like, are you guys going to join? We did our service with you, Mom.
Yeah.
Or you have the, veteran who, is, got the, disability, or falls into that, I'm coming over there. If their, spouse or child, they're dependent, what role, if any, do they play in this process, or what involvement do they have, if any?
Actually, a huge role. So we actually involve the whole family in the process. like I mentioned, our licensed clinical social worker that is on staff, he actually hosts a spouse group that is specifically for spouses in the program and spouses only. They kind of have their own little community, which is important. We invite the spouses out to all of our events. The spouses are allowed to come to training and watch. It really is a whole family environment. We involve the whole family in it. You know, sometimes it's the spouse, sometimes, you know, we've had instances where it's the kid. Whoever that might be, we do involve the whole family in the training process and everything.
The primary caregiver.
Yep,
Gotcha.
absolutely. But no, it's important that we support the family as well. You know, and the family has oftentimes working with a loved one who has PTSD or who has traumatic brain injury or military sexual trauma that poses its own challenges. So it's important that we're able to support them as well and give them the resources that they need to really be able to succeed and to be, you know, the best caregiver that they can be. So.
I know. I just like, what do you say? I mean, it's.
How do you follow up on this?
Well, how about this? Do you guys have an event coming up?
We do. I am so excited about it. So we have our 4th annual 5K, which is coming up in less than 3 weeks. So it's going to be on November 13th. It's over at Starkey Wilderness Park in Newport Richey. You can register online. Go onto our website, caninepartnersforpatriots.com. Scroll down just a little bit and you'll see the register for the 5K. We are so excited about this. The 5K has always been kind of my baby. And last year we had to do it virtually, obviously, with COVID and everything. So we are very excited to be back in person this year. We do have a virtual component because we know there's a lot of other events going on in the community that day. So if you are not able to attend, but you would like to join virtually, it's a very unique thing. You can sign up to join. You still get the shirt, you get the medal, but you can go out and run the 3.12 miles on your own time. But we have a good amount of our supporters are coming out. I believe race registration costs are going up here, I think, at the end of the week. So if you are wanting to register, now is most definitely the time. I believe the time that this airs, it might have already gone up, but regardless, register as soon as possible so you can secure your spot. We are so excited to be back out there this year and to be over at Starkey Wilderness Park. It's a beautiful park if you all have never been out there. We'll be back by the day rental area. We actually have that whole area reserved. And it is going to be an absolute incredible time. Again, it's March 13th. Think of it kind of as a late Veterans Day celebration.
November.
Or I'm sorry. Apparently, I'm wishing the year away already. November.
We are marching along.
Yes, that's where it was coming from. So November 13th, if you would like to run, you can run. If you don't want to run, you can walk. We have folks that come out with their walkers and all and do the 3.12 miles. You can bring your dog as well. We do ask well-behaved dogs only and no retractable leashes, only regular leashes, just for the safety of all involved. We're going to have a lot of different vendors out there. It's going to be a great time, really just being able to come together as a community and a way to really say thank you to our veterans who have just sacrificed so much for this country. So very excited. We hope to see you guys there. And of course, if you have any questions about the 5K, you can always call our office. Our contact information is on the website, but we are very, very excited about it.
And we're going to be there this year.
Yes, you guys are going to actually be there this year. So the Bobby White Foundation is going to be out there with a table as well. So it's a great opportunity to be able to learn about them and a lot of other members of our community, oftentimes who directly service our veterans. I know one of our big sponsors, he specifically does veterans disability law. So, you know, it takes a village when it comes to our veterans. We all have our own little slice of the pie, as I've heard it say. You know, our little slice of the pie is service dogs, but it takes us coming together as a whole, really reiterating the importance of our veterans and mental health that goes along with it. You know, just making a difference one life at a time. So,
yeah, I still.
I know. I am. You know, I am so blown away. You know, not only learning about your organization and what you do. But again, it is. It's vitally important
it is.
that veterans know and are aware of opportunities that are available, resources that are available.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because again, I remember as I think back to my own journey, we go in with these, concepts, these dreams, that this is what's going to happen. And you know what? I'm going to take this through to the end, and I'm going to take it to retirement. And a lot of us, sit back and we're like, yep, gonna do 20, because that was that magic number. But unfortunately for, some people, that they don't get to realize that 20 because of something that happens, in the course of service. And I'm not blaming the military, by any stretch of the imagination, because I know myself, like others that joined, when we raised our hand, I mean, that oath said, I'm pledging my life here. So I knew, or we knew at any given time, that service could mean our lives, literally. But at the same time, when that, whether it is, your ETS, your, estimated time of service, that's called, or your retirement, for some, there's been that disillusionment, like, I just gave you I just pledged my life, and there's nothing for me to help me with the residuals. The VA could be a wonderful organization or, wonderful resource. At the same time, there is that recognition that the VA is limited, and people think it's vast. And again, from my own perspective, it's like, what do you mean I can't get this? Or what do you mean this is not available? Or what do you mean I have to wait X number of months just to see somebody? And so having, people like you step up and recognize the need is, it's heartwarming. It is, vastly, it is needed, losing, for me, losing, friends to, the epidemic of suicide, and, or even, losing some friends in battle, and what that does to us, because, you're right. Once you're in the military, it is a family. So again, I, give you my personal heartfelt, thanks and applaud for, what you are doing, because it is absolutely needed.
Well, and it's so, I think another big thing, and I've definitely seen this firsthand, but transitioning out of the military, I guarantee you, almost every veteran you ask, what's the hardest thing you ever did? And it's transitioning out of the military. I saw that with my husband. We went through several deployments together. That was nothing compared to transitioning out of the military. And if we can help a veteran find their purpose again, and that's what it's about, because veterans thrive off of that purpose. What's my purpose? And that's why we involve the veterans in the training, because it gives them that purpose and that mission and that fulfillment again.
It is. You nailed something. Like, I used to joke when I was retiring. I was like, I'm going to take a year off, because I just, I just spent the last, I retired a year and a half early, with a disability. So I got to retire, at 18 and a half. But I remember it's like, I don't have to shine boots anymore. I don't have, and I could, and I don't have to do this and that. Well, that year lasted about 4 months. Because
right.
I was stir crazy sitting around the house like, well, I gotta have something to do. I gotta have something to do. And, the joke used to be, of course, we say it's a joke, but it was really serious, that after you retired, within 4 months, you'd be dead, because that purpose was stripped away from you. And I was like, what do you mean? And again, it was a joke, but then it became because there were some real times where, like, didn't he just retire 3 months ago and he's gone now? Or didn't she just retire and she's gone now? It's like, oh, it's not like that. But yeah, that transition is hard. I went from shining, I was like, I knew I had to shine boots and press a uniform, to, what do you mean I have to figure out what clothing and shoes that I'm wearing? I went from being extremely structured to, I still consider myself structured, but that structure is gone to a degree. You go from, like I said, you know what you're expected to do, to, because somebody's telling you, to, well, yeah, somebody's telling you, but it's extremely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we, again, you have my applaud, and we always run this down.
I
to the
know we
second.
do. I know we do. So again, don't forget the K9 Partners for Patriots 5K, November 13th at Starkey Park. That same day and about the same time is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's Out of the Darkness Walk, and that is at Sims Park in downtown Newport Richey. And somehow we will be at both events. We're going to duplicate ourselves somehow. And then later in the afternoon, that same day, November 13th, down in Tarpon Springs, is the Bowl-a-thon for Ian's Way. And we had Jennifer on last week to speak about Ian's Way and that fundraiser. So we'll be down there too. So that Saturday is a busy Saturday. And plus two, we still have Art for Hope going on. So probably the best thing to do is to hit up our website, see what's going on. We're still adding artwork. In a couple of weeks, hopefully, we'll be having an online auction from the studio here. Details to kind of be announced because there's just so much to do.
And and in the interim too, please remember, we do have the numbers to call, the suicide hotlines and whatnot. Please, as we always say, put those in your phone. Don't be afraid to reach out. And as we wind this out, as Tammy and I always say when we end it out,
There's always hope. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Jen.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.